Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Amelia Larson. We're going to start the webinar now. I'm very happy to see all of you have joined us today. I hope everybody can hear me. I believe that after so much time sheltering in place or being in isolation, we all needed this opportunity to get together for some insight into what we should do from now on to make our environment safer. I see many names we know. I'd like to say welcome to Mr. Al-Shamari, Mr. Al-Suwaid, Mr. Al-Faisal, Mrs. Al-Mutairi, and Mr. Bin Saidan, and everybody else. Thank you for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about the new beginning, how we're going to rise to the new challenge. Our speakers today are Jason, Marielle, and Ryan. This will be the onset of a string of webinars to come, which will cover architecture, engineering, and design in the post-pandemic era. Today's topic is how architecture and interior design will reduce the risk of COVID-19. There are many concerns these days, and I think we share them all, or most of them at least. For example, what's going to happen next? How will our lives change after all this? Some of us think to ourselves that it can't be so serious, while on the other hand, some of us may think we're approaching Armageddon. We wonder that maybe Mother Earth is turning against mankind. What's for sure, though, is that life after the COVID-19 outbreak will never be the same as before. But can building science help reduce the risk of COVID-19 or any other disease? That is a definite yes. And we are going to show a few simple steps on how it can. Life after the COVID-19 outbreak will never be the same as before. We are at the beginning of the end, waiting for a new beginning. And yes, if we don't urgently revise our behavior, Mother Earth will take its toll against mankind. The forecasts appear one by one. Some of them are more optimistic, some not. But almost everyone agrees that humanity will still find the strength to recover. Values will change, our lives and habits will change, and under that influence, our homes, workspaces, and social environments will also change. An article that circulated the net a little while ago was originally attributed to Bill Gates, and it was actually not written by him, but I believe it had a lot to offer. It said that this can be a time of reflection and understanding, where we learn from our mistakes, or it can be the start of a cycle which will continue until we finally learn the lesson we are meant to. We in CAS deeply believe architecture and interior design can change the world around us, our lifestyles, the connections between humans, and between humans and nature. So let's get on to the content now. Please write your questions and comments to us on chat. We will either answer at the end or in the next webinars to come. The topics we will discuss today are architecture, presented by Jason and Marielle, and interior design in two sections, materials and smart solutions, presented by Ryan. Marielle, please go ahead. Excuse me, Jason, please go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say ladies first, but thanks very much, Amelia. I appreciate that. It's hard not to pay more attention to our physical realm these days, given the fact that so many of us are sheltering in place or are likely to be doing so soon. Anecdotally, at least do-it-yourself home improvement projects are on the rise. So are home workouts, actually, if I think about it. So if you're like me, your closet or garage has never been better organized. But we're not living only for ourselves. We are communities. We're all connected. And together, we can always find answers to the most difficult questions and crises. As you might know, humans are thought to be the most adaptive species. It's always been within the context of swift changes that humans have evolved their sizable brains and capacity for adaptive behavior. Rick Potts, the director of the Human Origins program at the Smithsonian, says that in a world constantly changing, the ability to think creatively, to imagine novel solutions to survival threats proved to be a major asset. He says the evolution of the brain is the most obvious example of how we evolve to adapt. But in the modern era, we know that in the human genome, there are all kinds of interactions that allow human organisms to have plasticity, the capacity to adjust itself, an evolved characteristic. Now, Potts says man had two key advantages, our brains and our capacity for culture. He notes that our brains are essentially social brains. You see, we share information, we create and pass on knowledge. That's the means by which humans are able to adjust to new situations. And it's what differentiates humans from our earlier ancestors and our earlier ancestors from primates. So COVID-19 is not the first time that the human race is up against the forces of nature or pandemics. In history, there have been cities and buildings reimagined or redesigned in response to an increased understanding of disease. Consider Haussmann's renovation of the 1800s Paris, London's reconfigured infrastructure in the wake of the city's 1954 cholera epidemic, and the 19th century New York's reaction to the squalid conditions of tenement housing. But while the particular lessons of COVID-19 are still very much to be determined, a few ideas have already emerged. One example is that an urban architecture firm has designed hyperlocal micro-markets that operate during COVID-19 shutdowns. Now, we as humans have the power to overcome all crises. And for us in the design community, however, the rapid spread of COVID-19 has caused us to reevaluate our life's work and what it might mean to design for a world that will never be quite the same, especially when it comes to creating residential spaces and even how we gather in large public spaces like airports, hotels, hospitals, gyms, and even offices. So to achieve an interior environment, the solutions should be functional and enhance the quality of life and culture of the occupants. So in the case of housing, these aspects are reinforced due to the amount of time that people spend in these spaces and that they host the backbone of society, which of course are our families. So we call it human-centered, meaning it should take the user as center of design and find a creative approach to problem solving. Human-centered design is a process that starts with the people that you're designing for and ends with tailor-made solutions to suit their needs. It always seeks to build empathy, following a process that permits to understand, define, ideate, prototype, and test creative solutions to everyday problems. So for example, one family loves gardening, while the other family loves swimming. We've got a client, a newly married couple who are rock music lovers, and this is what their home looks like. Or in another family, the problem is that the mother loves aqua-inspired designs, while her husband is passionate for desert tones. So we're designing a separate estraha for the husband and his gatherings with the desert look and feel. So this is the first principle of design that is called human-centered design, or HCD. Therefore, no two homes look like each other unless you are not building your lifetime home. So let me give you the first model. We call it the diamond model. So the diamond model is an approach to decision-making that pairs two types of thinking. It's divergent and convergent thinking, in order to allow individuals and teams to make effective choices from an expanded understanding of the challenge and the possible solutions. So what does the diamond model have to do with human-centered design, or HCD? Well, it turns out that when paired with the principles of human-centered design, the diamond model provides an effective structure for the HCD process. Now, according to the first fundamental principles of HCD and what we've discussed earlier about human adaptation, we want to focus upon the people. Now, whatever we design, we'll always think of the people who will use it. Those are not abstract users. Those are real human beings that the home or building is the tool that helps them reach their goal. The process of identification starts with a simple question: who am I building this for? Unless you're building a product for yourself, you'd have to start by thinking about your audience. Who will be using this area? In what context, time, place, device, etc., will it most likely happen? Now, after that, we'll need to figure out critical user journeys, which is to answer these key points. When something happens, I want to do something so I can reach a goal. Now, today, I want to emphasize on the when. You see, today's situation's changed, although we're still the same, but we have to adapt. So the sentence will be when, during, and after COVID-19, I want to, or we want to, or all humans want to live a wholesome life. So I can, or so we can reach a goal. What's your goal? What's your why? To live happily. To live forever is not possible since we're not Dracula, but we want our memories to live forever, which means our kids and grandchildren won't blame us for a disaster and a damaged future and a ruined environment that we have had to hand over to them. They'll thank us and remember us as we were like what we do from our past. So make it simple. What is our goal? To live happily and bring happiness for our families, for our friends, for our nations, for all humans, and for our environment. So principle 2, find the right problem. Now, not all problems are worth solving. Don Norman identifies 2 types of problems. There's fundamental problems and symptoms of the problem. He argues that it's essential to solve a fundamental problem first, because by doing that, you'll solve a root cause of other problems. Of course, conducting research and identifying the fundamental problem requires time in normal situations, but today, during the COVID-19, finding the problem is not so difficult. At least in an architecture and design perspective, we can identify faulty designs and unhygienic products, non-ergonomic space plans in our homes, our offices, restaurants, and hotels. You can think about the core problems around you in your living environment. You can either write it now in the chat room or later. So you can send us an email listing all the problems around you. But be sure there is always a solution to find. And if it can't be found, we'll create it. Mariel, the floor is yours.
Marielle, we can't hear you. Can you please check your mic? No, cannot hear you. I think we can hear you now.
Yeah?
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, everyone. Well, design should always evolve because humans always do. In both cases that Jason mentioned about the 2 cities, France and London, the mankind were unable to handle the human waste due to overpopulation Industrial Revolution brought. After realizing diseases were most common in poor living conditions, research led to understanding that contaminated air and water were mostly the causes of these epidemics. Talking about these 2 successful examples gives us a certain thought. Investing in preventing pandemics is the responsible thing to do. To understand how to use the interior design and architecture to reduce risk of pandemics, we need to know a little more about how the diseases work. According to National Geographic, there are 3 methods of disease transmission: direct, indirect, and vector. We are going to review what they are and how to prevent them. The first one is direct transmission. There are 2 types of direct transmission: person to person, that can occur when an infected person touches or exchanges body fluids with another person, and droplets, which is spreading disease by coughing or sneezing, can cause droplets containing the infectious agent to land on nearby people. Actions to prevent this type of transmission would be the installation of sinks in public spaces so people can wash their hands more often, applying modular solutions with simplified installations that can isolate rooms, such as movable walls, screens, panels, or portable room dividers that can give more space when needed and reduce transit to minimize risk of infection. Also, a different approach when designing buildings, such as the interior integration of open spaces that encourage people to spread out. separate waiting room areas that help maintain safe distances, and more visible and attractive stairs, so we avoid, when possible, crowds on elevators. The second form of transmission is indirect transmission, and there are 3 types of indirect transmission. The first one is airborne. It happens when an infectious agent that comes from an infected person remains in the air for an extended period of time. Then there's a fecal-oral, which is transmission from drinking or eating infected products. And there's fomites, is when inanimate objects serve as vehicle to pass an infectious disease. The indirect form of transmission can be addressed in various ways from an architecture perspective. The first one would be natural ventilation and sunlight, because they have been proven to kill infectious agents that can cause airborne transmission. Natural daylight and fresh air are effective elements to sterilize and reduce infections in a closed space. When natural ventilation alone cannot be used, alternative ventilation systems such as a mixed mode should be considered. And if it's still not enough, or in extreme climates, mechanical ventilation with appropriate filters should be implemented. When suitable, passive ventilation systems can be successfully used, especially if the actions are considered during a project stage. To prevent the fecal-oral transmission, we can ensure that our sewage systems are in correct shape and enforce hand wash. And finally, to address the transmission through fomites, touchless technology, automatic doors, voice-activated elevators, cell phone control hotel room entries, hands-free light switches, and temperature and electric washroom fixtures should be implemented as possible, reducing the transmission through less direct contact. Finally, implementing the use of antimicrobial materials. The third form of transmission is vector-borne. Diseases are most commonly transmitted by insect bites. The World Health Organization proposes some of the following strategies to prevent vector-borne transmission. Reducing insect breeding sites by clearing out rubbish from yards and emptying vessels of water. Improve buildings with mosquito-proof wire mesh. Incorporate insect-repelling plants in houses and public spaces. There are a lot of plants that can repel insects. Depending on the insect, the plant may vary, but the most common are lavender and citronella. We can also install fans. A lot of insects do not like wind. And the use of repelling candles can also help to keep bugs away. But most importantly, keep your space clean. This solution will help prevent insects such as ants and cockroaches to get into your house. These are just examples of how we can make changes on our buildings and our future projects that can really make a difference when facing an epidemic or pandemic such as COVID-19. The above solutions are for temporary situations, but main lessons we should learn from this pandemic is that it will impact on the future of design. Healthy design will be the new norm, and we will abstract many good practices from healthcare design into other projects by adapting or designing public spaces to follow healthcare construction standards. Also, we will need to adjust our indoor lives with solutions that give a positive effect to our psychological behavior. For example, lighting, configuration, scale, proportions, colors, and materials. They can impact the sense of the user and generate certain feelings. In 1943, the US psychologist Abraham Maslow published a paper called A Theory of Human Motivation, in which he said that most people had 5 sets of needs, which come in a particular order. As each level of needs is satisfied, begins the desire to fulfill the next set. The top of the pyramid is self-actualization and talks about fulfillment and becoming the best version of yourself. This can only be completed as long as the other needs are satisfied as well. The first step of the pyramid talks about physiological needs: food, water, shelter, rest, health, warmth, followed by safety, social, and esteem needs. So, to achieve a healthy society that is productive and creative, we need to make sure they have all their needs covered. These are some of examples of home improvements we can make to achieve this positive effect. Building houses and not apartments. High-rise buildings were designed to organize as many people as possible in one place. Health and hygiene were not a consideration. In types of pandemic, it is necessary to reduce contact with everything that is used in multi-story buildings. Elevator buttons, door handles, surfaces, and all above, neighbors. Also, bunkers or basements will be a must. The desire to prepare your home for natural or man-made hazards is no longer surprising. There will not only be a garage near the house, but also a hopper, or at least a fortified minus floor with a pantry for food and water. Self-sufficient power and water. The buildings of the future will be proud and independent, with their own water supply and heating. Geothermal wells are gaining popularity already. In addition to water, they can partially provide a home with heating. And make your home sustainable. Sustainable homes help the environment and the impact of climate change, and with this, help prevent diseases. Home as the new office. More attention will be given to the arrangement of the workplace and home. Spatial organization will change, with a place to work in a completely separate room with large windows, blackout curtains, and comfortable furniture. It will be technically equipped and sound insulated. Urban farming goes global. As our grandparents told us, gardening is coming. It is proven that physical interaction with living plants is good for our mental health. Also, vertical gardens, green roofs, and houseplants are a great part of interiors and can contribute greatly to this space. Seeking comfort. Our houses need to seek comfort. It refers to achieving ambient qualities like temperature, acoustics, and light that make the user feel better inside a space. Then there's smart materials, which are also part of the future, such as smart glass. Smart glass has the ability to change its properties and appearance, allowing the environmental conditions of the space to be optimized according to the use and the needs of its users, by changing the light transmission when altered by voltage, light, or heat. Also, incorporating art inside a space will help creativity and add a sense of uniqueness and culture. Using technologies during a project stage, such as building information modeling, can facilitate detailed planning and execution to minimize waste, lower cost, and improve sustainability. And finally, the right use of materials and color. They can really impact the user's comfort and well-being. Natural materials such as wood can give a much cozier look, and the right choice of color can help create the desired mood. The challenge now is to convey all reviewed ideas, developing human-centered, customizable spaces with natural ventilation, using technology in our favor. As an architect, you design for the present with awareness of the past for a future which is essentially unknown. Norman Foster, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marielle. Please go ahead, Ryan.
Hi there, everyone. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to chat to you in such a global online gathering. What I'll be presenting today is not just how to fight COVID-19, but how to make our environments more hygienic overall. A pandemic like the current one makes us nervous for the future, but at the same time, it is teaching us a huge lesson about changing our lifestyles going forward. Now, talking about the novel coronavirus itself, due to its heaviness compared to other viruses, it falls onto the ground or any other surface quite quickly. COVID-19 has the ability to survive outside the human body on surfaces such as metal, glass, and plastics. So it's vital to know how long each one lasts on each surface. Today, we're going to learn how it behaves on different materials and then look at finding some solutions. So based on the latest research, the virus behaves differently depending on the type of surface it lands on. Here we have a chart that shows the lifespan of coronavirus on different types of materials, ranging from metals and ceramics at 120 hours, all the way down to aluminium and copper with 4 hours at the bottom. So what are non-porous surfaces? To answer this, we first have to know what are porous surfaces. Porous materials are materials with more holes in them that allow air and liquid to flow through, just like a sponge. Because of their molecular structure, there is more space to allow absorption and airflow. So non-porous materials are more dense and do not absorb well and allow air or liquid to pass through them more easily. So common non-porous materials in your home include ceramic tiles, metal sinks, glass, metal cabinets, and door handles. And examples of porous materials include drywall, carpeting, wallpaper, acoustic ceiling tiles, and bricks and such. The porosity of materials is not the main criteria in hygiene, but it is something we must pay attention to in selecting furniture and flooring, and also something to consider when dealing with maintenance. One important factor to consider, which connects architecture with interior design, is that natural and free resources, such as the sun and the wind, can make environments much healthier by using passive energy, just like Mariel explained to us earlier. Ventilation, clean air, and direct sunlight are all factors that make our lives much healthier and our environments more hygienic to live and work in. This is great news considering many of you in the Middle East and Northern Africa region, where the sun is a free resource. So we believe that by selecting the right materials, you can keep the luxuries and still live in a healthy home environment. When most people think about selecting furniture and materials for a project, aesthetics are an important topic. And from the designer's point of view, specifications should also be durable, functional, and meet the sustainability and budgetary requirements, as well as being safe, of course. Now, what we're presenting are general rules, and applying them could differ from region to region. Did you know that there are certain materials and finishings that offer antimicrobial protection, meaning that they kill microorganisms or stop their growth? You can find viruses, molds, and bacteria on countertops and flooring, on textile fixtures, but there are materials that offer antimicrobial protection against these pesky problems, and they are available to use in your homes, offices, restaurants, hotels, and healthcare centers. So let's look a little bit deeper. So materials that offer antimicrobial protection, let's have a look here. Preventing the growth of mold, bacteria, and other microorganisms is arguably the most vital consideration of all. In order to provide the interior of a structure with effective antimicrobial protection, a hygienic coating for internal walls and floors must provide a surface that is easy to clean, is sustainable, and free from joints and seams and other features which might harbor dirt and bacteria. Some of the FF and E specifications you'll need to know and look for when researching wall treatments include fabric covering, commercial vinyl wall covering, upholstered panels, as well as cork wall covering. The main criteria for hygienic coatings and coverings are cold cracking and heat aging resistance, crocking resistance, scrubbability, and chemical resistance. One of the latest examples is hygienic cladding. The benefits of hygienic cladding are they are easy to clean, it takes less preparation, much larger than tiles, making them cost effective, durable, impact resistant, and long lasting, resistant to chemicals, and they withstand temperature and dampness. PVC is actually inherently fire resistant and can be painted as well, which makes for a quick and easy installation. In regards to solutions for walls, let's talk about paint. What about paint? It can, of course, be used for walls, ceilings, and floors. Can we find hygienic and antibacterial paint? Most paint manufacturers often offer an additive that is simply mixed into any color or finish, making it antimicrobial. This makes the paint resistant to mold, fungus, and bacteria, even after repeated cleanings. So here we have an example of a surface treated with antimicrobial paint, where up to 90% of contamination is actually repelled. You can find them in the market under the name of BioCoat, which incorporates antimicrobial technology. Here we can read a bit more about BioCoat. Antimicrobial paint additives are specific active ingredients that can be introduced into a paint, coating, ink, or lacquer during the manufacturing process to make it resistant to microbes. Volatile organic compounds are chemicals that are emitted from things like paint, glue, and cleaning products, and they can be not so good for your health. So the good news is that there are low VOC options for most kinds of materials, but the bad news, not every manufacturer uses them. So make sure you check the VOCs on all the products you buy. Now let's go into flooring options. To decide what the best material would be for hygienic flooring, it would have to depend on its purpose. Consultants can help you to choose the right hygienic flooring to meet your individual needs. But for general information, it would help to be familiar with different flooring types, such as carpet, vinyl, stone, wood, and tiling. So floor finishes that offer additional protection are antimicrobial flooring options, bamboo flooring, which has an antifungal agent, cork flooring, which comes from the cork oak tree. It actually stops bacteria and microorganisms from growing. Poured in place floors like rubber can work well, and epoxy can be used to seal many floors, so they are antimicrobial, but this is typically used in commercial applications. Okay, now we'll come to the favorite flooring for most of you, marble. An unparalleled beauty and an elegance used as interior surface by rich and powerful palaces, modern day celebrity mansions, and of course the middle class family homes as well. As many might know, marble is a metamorphic rock formed with limestone and dolostone that has crystallized gradually over time by heat and pressure in the Earth's crust. This process is called crystallization. There are many names for the different variations of this rock. Let's have a look. Some marble types include Calcutta marble, the rarest and most expensive marble, which comes in gold, white, and gray. Then we have Carrara marble, one of the most common and most affordable marbles, named after its main source, Carrara, Italy, and it comes in white and gray veining. Now, the main question is whether this beautiful stone is still our first choice after COVID-19. And is it really the right material for our homes, or even public areas like hotels or VIP spaces? We'll leave that up to you, but as experts, we'll give you some tips and knowledge in the meantime. As a notoriously porous surface, marble may have some hygiene issues. The pores on its surface trap organic matter and liquids, allowing bacteria and mold to grow in the nearly microscopic recesses. A study was conducted by Dr. Snyder, a president of the Hospitality Institute of Technology, where 4 widely used countertop materials were compared: 2 granite, 1 marble, and 1 quartz surface. The study showed that all are easily cleaned to meet FDA sanitizer criteria. However, marble has low scratch resistance, and if scratched, this will compromise the hygiene of the surface, while granite and other engineered stones have much higher scratch resistance, making them slightly more hygienic. In a household with pets or young children, spilled food and liquids can make cleaning these tiny pores a very detestable round-the-clock task. In addition to marble's vulnerability to acids, it is unfortunately just as weak against alkalis, Common alkalis around the house include strong cleaners such as bleach, which will rapidly etch marble when it's used in high concentrations. So remember, too much cleaning might just ruin your marble floor. Terrazzo, epoxy, and linoleum are all good flooring material options for your home. Terrazzo is a composite material poured in place or precast, which is used for floor and wall treatments. It consists of chips of marble, quartz, granites, glass, or other suitable materials. Because of its sealed and non-porous quality, terrazzo is prominently used in the food and restaurant business, as well as laboratories and restaurants and hospitals. Terrazzo surfaces can improve the overall indoor air quality for the public space. We don't recommend its use for countertops in bars, in restaurants, bathrooms, and kitchens, because it shouldn't be getting too wet. Epoxy floors are resistant to a large number of chemicals, such as solvents and acids. Floors are decorative and available in many different colors and designs. Epoxy floors combine well with the underfloor heating, and they're also quite sustainable. So they're suitable for heavy use and mechanical loads. This option works well in warehouses, workshops, and production areas. They're not good for office spaces because they can make quite a noise when you walk on them. So I can recommend using it for hospitals and restaurants, as it is completely seamless, so it won't harbor bacteria or mold in the recesses. It can withstand even the harshest cleaning procedures without damage. And with the addition of an anti-slip additive, an epoxy floor also creates a safe work environment for fast-moving employees that are likely to slip and get hurt. This promotes production and reduces liability at your facilities. Linoleum is a low VOC material and among the most eco-friendly one. It is also comes in many various styles and colors, but keep in mind that it doesn't do well with moisture and therefore not recommended for use in bathrooms or laundry rooms or other areas that might have spills, splashes, or even high humidity. For hospitality and healthcare, we recommend hygienic floor coverings. They are designed specially for places where hygiene is very important. Hygienic floor coverings are designed to withstand exposure to fats and oils, food acids, blood, sugar, and other corrosive byproducts. Plus, it provides a fully seamless finish, so it prevents the growth of bacteria. They're also generally quite slip resistant. So moving on to quartz. Quartz is among the hardest non-precious stones. It is a non-porous option that is scratch resistant and antimicrobial. Quartz can be a great choice for countertops. Quartz is an engineered material with approximately 95% polymer resins. 95% ground natural quartz and 5% polymer resins. The resins help make it stain and scratch resistant. They come in many different patterns, colors, and finishes, making them almost indistinguishable from other natural stones like granite or marble. Therefore, quartz can suit every style and design, from modern to traditional, on top of being so hygienic. These are some examples of manufacturers that provide quartz or quartz blend countertops. We've got Sourstone, we've got Decton, and Caesarstone. There are many different colors and finishes available for you. Semi-precious stone countertops, such as agate, tiger eye, and petrified wood, are also stain and scratch resistant, and some of the most beautiful surfaces you could ever use. Several manufacturers, such as Wilson Art, make antimicrobial laminate countertops, so protection from damaging microbes like mold and mildew is actually built into the surface. So let's go into the next slide. What about fixtures and hardware materials? Are there any antimicrobial options for us? Of course. Lead-free copper as the material is naturally antimicrobial and never needs to be resealed. There are also no off gases emitted. But don't think this will mean less luxury for your home. Copper is definitely in the trends for 2020. As we can see here, some more stylish options where copper is used to create a very homely elegant effect. You can also find kitchen and bathroom equipment from Kohler, or Rocky Mountain Hardware will have your door and window hardware, as well as many other fixtures. There are also some smart solutions. Hand-free fixtures in the kitchen and bathrooms are available thanks to several manufacturers such as Delta, Kohler, and Mun, with very stylish options available. Smart and hand-free solutions are a key pillar in enhancing hygiene in public areas as well as around the house. Fabrics are among the porous materials. Apart from looking great, they can be easy to maintain and wash, but let's find out a little bit more. It seems like everywhere we turn, there's something lurking in a product ready to kill us. Nitrates in food, parabens in face lotion, even food dye in our delicious cakes. And sadly, furniture isn't innocent either. Bugs such as microorganisms and insects are present in the environment and sometimes can be hazardous if the area is not maintained following proper hygienic regulations. Synthetic antimicrobials and insect repellents are quite effective against insects and microscopic organisms, but are slightly toxic to the human being and the environment. The problem is that plenty of manufacturers use these toxic metals from glue to foam to finishes. In fact, many of the products used in furniture construction can contain cancer-causing chemicals. You can't avoid them completely, but you can greatly minimize your exposure by shopping for less toxic products. You just need to know what to look for. Due to the public health awareness of pathogenic effects on personal hygiene and associated health risks, especially during these times, we have done some research to find where we can minimize microbes growth on textiles while considering natural agents for functional finishes. So we found a bunch of ideas and we're going to go give them a look at. We're going to give you the general knowledge and info so you don't get confused. This information here is for the experts to work on and give us a solution in their own time. So don't worry if it looks scary. But for public knowledge, it's important to be aware about the keywords and labels in order to make sure your fabrics are both healthy, eco-friendly, and follow the correct standards. Here are the common certifications as environmental communication tools for green claims. As I mentioned before, there are a wide range of labels, laws, and logos that describe environmental claims to consumers. This is termed green marketing. The value of the environmental claims lies on the guarantee that the information provided is valid and easily distinguishable for the customers. Here are a few eco-labels that you can keep an eye out for. There are some worldwide leading textile standards for organic fibers. So, top clean technology is not new. It's actually 2 years old, but it's still not yet that common. It's an innovative treatment directly applied to the fibers of the fabric that protects the surface and doesn't let stains penetrate the inner part of the fiber. This makes it extremely difficult to soil the inner stuffing of your furniture, allowing for a cleaner and more hygienic environment. This technology is antibacterial. Due to the innovative product applied to the fibers, it does not allow bacteria to thrive and reproduce. So let's watch a little bit of video, a small video to illustrate this. The video should be coming up in the next minute or so. There we go. All right, so to summarize our germ-free living materials section, we can say that interior design solutions after COVID-19 will change our way of life and focus more on healthy germ-free products. The way we renovate and build new buildings will likely reflect our collective fear for another pandemic. Any surface that has some level of germ resistance will be more in demand going forward, and cleanable surfaces will be at the forefront of designers and clients' motivations. New innovations in building materials will be widely sought after. So increased awareness about materials and how they affect our hygiene is definitely a major step in making the right decisions during the design process. Smart interior design is the use of efficient and flexible furniture and movable walls in a house reduces impact on the environment and more space for necessary spaces, adding more natural light and sterilization. Additional necessary rooms can be mudrooms, will become essential in the post-pandemic era. New researches show that germs inside the home, especially from shoes, can be a major contributor to the spread of disease. Emphasis is placed on the necessity of designing a mudroom in the house and even offices. Therefore, a room where shoes and outer clothing are placed upon entering the home will be necessary. In the Gulf region, shoes are usually not brought into the house anyway, so this is already a positive point in terms of hygiene. Ergonomic distance in public spaces like restaurants, cafes, and workplaces will be the new standard in designing such venues. Home offices, during the pandemic, many people have been forced to work from home. We don't know what's coming next, but we must do our best to prepare for it. Home offices can be designed in accordance with an individual's requirements and taste. A home can have 2 or 3 office rooms to accommodate all the different family members. Home offices can be designed in your style. It can be homey, simple, rustic, and so on. So finally, smart design. Now we can talk about voice-controlled trash cans. Anyway, touchless smart technology is a massive step forward. Doors that can open with a voice command, app-controlled temperature settings, and a series of conceptual products that aim to improve public health and new age ideas. What about an ultraviolet sterilizing lamp that uses UVC light to disinfect water and air? Now we're talking. Talking about health does not mean that you are working or living space. Does not mean that your work or living space has to be a colorless void, unless that's something you like, of course. Or maybe too organic, like a jungle with natural finishings and rocky water fountains. Although that does sound quite relaxing, to be honest. But no. We aim to adapt our living and working environments to a healthy, while beautifully styled home, office, social, or public space. And of course, will be so much better than before. With great communication and relationships, possibilities will arise that bring us all together again. Thank you for giving me the time. And I wish you all lots of happiness and health. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, well, Ryan, Marielle, and Jason, thank you so much. Great presentation today. And thank you everybody else who joined us. It was such a pleasure to have you. We hope the content was useful to you. And we're going to continue these webinars with more information on new panelists. I want to end our webinar today with a few quotes about COVID-19. It has shown us that we can choose to cooperate and help each other to I hope everybody can hear me. Or we can choose to be selfish, to hoard, and to look only after ourselves. The news we hear today is everywhere. For example, from The Guardian that says the Halifax distillery wants to give away hand sanitizer. Fashion shows are donating their income to COVID-19 victims. Whiskey producers are making hand sanitizer. Budding fashion designers are making face masks. And the FCA is manufacturing and donating face masks. Even car makers are repurposing their factories for medical care. Indeed, it is difficulties that bring out our true colors. So what can you do? Look around you and discover problems. Find any small thing that can lead to a disaster. Bring us your requirements and your problems. Together, we will find the right solution. First, we have to get rid of COVID-19, then bring new meaning to our lives. This pandemic reminds us of the important lessons we seem to have forgotten, and it is up to us to learn them or not to. We're going to correct everything that was set wrong to a correct life, with knowledge and adaptation, with Koreans to all human beings from any race or kind. We are going to build the future together. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope to see you next time. Please keep safe. On behalf of CAS, I would like to send our best wishes to you and your families. I've typed our email on the chat. Please send us your comments or any suggestions you may have to that email or to our website. Thanks and take care. Bye-bye.